Hey everybody, we're talking about mold and toxic metals, and we're talking about treatment in this video. And the number one rule I recommend in treatment for mold and toxic metals is kind of like the tortoise and the hare thing. The slower person usually wins the race. Meaning, oftentimes when we detox, we get die-off, detox types of reactions are really common. These are called Herxheimer reactions. And essentially what happens when we're detoxing is we're asking the cells to dump the toxins. The toxins live in the cells and hide in the cells. So we're asking the cells to dump the toxins. If the cells do this at a rate faster than the body can actually break the toxins down and remove them, then guess what? We wind up getting real sick. Now, some people really have this belief that if we get real sick, we are just going to push through it, and that's going to help people get better and feel better faster. But most of the time in my clinic, what I've seen is that the opposite is true. That when we are pushing toxins through real fast, what winds up happening is we're increasing the inflammation in our body. Sometimes we can get liver inflammation, kidney inflammation. I've seen that validated on lab work. And in those situations where we start inflaming the body doesn't work as well. And then the body has to go back and heal the damage that could have been avoided just by pacing our detoxification process. So I really encourage you, when you are going through detox for these types of things, to work with a professional if you can, but at the very least to make sure you're not going too fast, right? The slow, steady speed with this wins the race. And I'm a real fast person. I'm a type A person. So when I was going through mold and metals, this was not easy for me, but it is worth it. Listen to your body. Some people's bodies really can detox quite fast, like quickly. And if you're not getting negative symptoms, awesome. But if you are getting negative symptoms, that's a sign that your body is communicating and saying, whoa, 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 slow way down, take your time, keep the inflammation down. That'll go a lot better. So I talked in earlier videos that starting oftentimes with lymphatic massage and herbs such as myrrh or choline or tudka to open up some of the processes and the pathways in the body can be super, super beneficial. That still is true. And beyond that, we want to think about how detoxification works in general. So detoxification works by thinking about things like, okay, we need the cells to release the toxins. The toxins go to the liver. The liver has two phases, phase 1 and phase 2, that break down the toxins. So we want both phase 1 and phase 2 to work well. Then the liver has to get the toxins out of the liver, and that happens with these transport proteins, where these proteins help toxins be transported out of the liver. The toxins go into the bile. That is true whether or not you have a gallbladder. And once the toxins get into the bile, you eat a fatty meal, the toxins and the bile go into the small intestine, and then hopefully into the large intestine and out into the stool. So there's a few different places that can be broken down here. Cells may not release the toxins. The phase 1 and phase 2 of the liver might not be working correctly. The transport proteins to get the toxins out of the liver might not work. The bile may not be made. And in the intestinal tract, instead of actually having the toxins make their way all the way into the stool, we could actually reabsorb toxins, right? So that is meaning we're mobilizing and they're circulating and circulating. So in order to make this work well, we want to start with the lymphatic work, with upregulating, meaning increasing those transport proteins of the toxins out of the liver as some of our first steps. And then we want to add things for phase 1 and phase 2 detox. Phase 1 and phase 2, so for phase 1, our B vitamins really help, glutathione helps, things like green tea extract, if you tolerate that, really helps. Phase 2, we want to also think about glutathione, about ALA, about NAC, about glycine and taurine. All of these molecules help with phase 2. I already mentioned the transport protein nutrients. So these are things like myrrh and choline and tudka, help those transport proteins so that things are transported out. They can also help with bioflow. And then we get these toxins into the intestinal tract. We want to make sure that we're binding. So using a combination of binders usually works best for people. So I often use a combination of zeolite, works really well with chlorella. You really want to be very careful with chlorella because a lot of chlorella is contaminated with toxic metals, and you want to make sure that you're not putting things in that you're trying to get out. Prime Chlorella is a brand that I have heavily researched, and they do a very good job to make sure there's not contaminants in their chlorella. In addition to that, activated charcoal, especially if it comes from coconut husk, works really well. Chitosan is an awesome binder, does come from shellfish, so you do need to be careful and avoid it if you have a shellfish allergy. And then beyond that, pharmaceutically, we can use things like cholestyramine, which is abbreviated as CSM, or Welchol. So you want all of those things generally to be on board, but in addition to that, you want to make sure that you are doing these things, and if you're sensitive, adding things in small micro amounts, one thing at a time. So if you react very smallly, you don't get totally inflamed, and you can continue to work with your body's processes, making sure you're staying hydrated, making sure you're moving or doing lymphatic massage to help your lymph flow. And if you did lab test at the beginning, it's definitely good to do a repeat test at the end of this to make sure you got it all, because we really want to get your toxic load completely down to a level that's very manageable by the body and keeping you out of symptoms. That's it for now. Please subscribe if you liked this channel, and we'll see you in the next one.